Hello guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to the garage, and welcome back to working on the race truck. So we did some second gen work, got our rusted cab mounts all taken care of. That truck's ready and safe to be on the road again. Though it is winter, it's a two-wheel drive truck, so we're probably not going to get too much in the way of road trips with that thing anytime soon, especially since we do have impending snow this weekend. But anyhow, we're jumping back over to the drag truck. So tonight's thing we're going to get into here in a second is partially because of what we want to do with the truck. As you guys saw, we have a sled pulling setup for the truck, basically kind of revealing that my whole plan with this truck is basically to make a UCC truck. So that being said, we need to get into getting the sled pull stuff on the truck, all this and that, and just get this thing completely like ready for war. So that's where tonight's mod comes in, and it comes from the folks over at Fleece Performance. So Fleece and Freedom, as you guys know, Freedom who built our engine, it's all one big entity, but we got this engine mid plate from them. And what this is going to do is secure the back of the engine to the frame of the truck. It's going to be, we're going to make it so it's bolted in and all that, so we can take it out and pull the engine if we have to, all that kind of stuff. So basically what this mid plate's going to do, like I said, it's going to sturdy everything up. We do have Armor Inc. solid engine mounts in the front here, but this is just going to take even more flex out of that drivetrain and try and keep things situated in the truck. It's a stability thing, it's a safety thing, it's a bunch of different things. Also, when we're pulling the transmission out, the engine's not going to try and rock forward. When I was just trying to push the truck over, I was trying to get my front clip to get seated on there, right, and it wouldn't. Well, I forgot when we pull the transmission, the engine has a tendency to kind of level out and rock forward. So it'll keep it from doing that as well, putting the transmission in and pulling it out a little bit easier. Now, this mid plate you get directly from Fleece. Go on their website, give them a call, but you have to modify your engine adapter plate. So this is a 48RE engine adapter plate that we've machined down. So you can send yours to the guys at Fleece and have them take care of it for you. But if you have the means, you can do it. If you have no machinist or what have you. Basically, this is a piece of 1/4 inch steel. So we milled a 1/4 inch off of the adapter plate. But also, once you do that, you kind of lose your dowel pin holes. So the dowel pin aligns the transmission to the adapter plate. Basically, that way your everything's centered up on the crank, so you know you don't want your transmission to be a couple thousandths out. That's why when we install our transmission, we get it flush with the adapter plate and don't run it in with a gun. We get everything up and flush, and then we tighten everything down. So before you actually mill this off, you're going to want to take these holes, these dowel holes, you're going to want to make them 200 thousandths deeper. This is a 5/8 dowel hole. So once you get that 200 thousandths deeper, you can then machine a 1/4 inch off your adapter plate, and you're good to go adapter plate wise. The next thing you need to do is actually make your own dowel. So I found some 5/8 round stock and then put it in a lathe, and I drilled it out to a little bit bigger than our 3/8 bolts. The guys at Fleece told me they, I guess, have tubing they use, and it's actually a 095 wall tubing. But I just took 5/8 round stock, put it in the lathe, drilled it out, and we're a little bit beefier than what theirs are, but it's big enough that we still have plenty of clearance for our bolt. Also, our new dowel pins are gonna have to be a bit longer with our added 200 thousandths that we drilled into our adapter plate. So they need to be 3/4 of an inch long, and that will get everything so you can mate everything up. I've already had this bolted down to the adapter plate and to the, well, our mock-up transmission, because we haven't gotten our transmission back from the guys at Muldoon's, which is honestly 100% my fault. I have some stuff that I got to get to them. We kind of tasked me with finding some parts just to try and keep costs lower because some of this 48 stuff is getting harder to find. So that's the engine mid plate and that whole setup. Like I said, if you want to do this, you're not sure about cutting the adapter plate down off, call the guys at Fleece or Freedom and they'll get you all set up and get yours machined. Like I said, this is ours. As you can see from previous endeavors, we have a little bit of clearancing for our converter bolts. So what we need to do is we need to get our mock-up transmission in, our cross member, our adapter plate, all this stuff, actually the adapter plate first. And now that I say that, I gotta see if I have this little cam seal, so that way we can put this thing on here permanent. Yeah, definitely forgot about that. So I gotta look for that. If we got that, we can proceed and that can stay on, but if not, not really a big deal. We'll just mock everything up and we can get our mid plate in. So that's kind of the plan for tonight. Get everything in there and try and get our mid plate mocked up. These mid plates are made for like multiple generation trucks. I think they work for second, third, and tonight we're gonna make it work for a 4th gen. I'm sure they don't have too many 4th gens with a mid plate in it. So anyway, guys, oh, and this is a big thing in the pulling world from what I understand. And if you look at any really fast cars and they have the engine out, there's a mid plate in there. So anyway, guys, let's get to working on this and get our new Fleece mid plate in. Got a genuine Cummins square seal for the back of our adapter plate. There is the part number 4945701. So when we put our adapter plate in, we can leave it in, and when our transmission gets back from Muldoon's, we'll be ready to rock and roll. Alright, so as you guys can see, our adapter plate is in. We had a little bit of a struggle. So first off, the adapter plate is a little too big, which, like I said, it's for different models, all that. I don't even know if anybody's put one of these on a 4th gen yet. But on the passenger side, we have plenty of clearance. Didn't have to mess with that. On the driver's side here, I actually had to cut 5/8 of an inch out, and now it goes in nice and easy. But the other thing with that is I actually had to take all these electric lines and stuff. Everything was just kind of bundled up like back here, and we had to reroute our fuel lines a little bit. And I'm definitely gonna have to do something with this wiring, because you see our starter cable there. Yeah, that wouldn't be good. It'd be rubbing right on that plate. So we're gonna have to do something with that. But that's probably not gonna be tonight. I really do need to redo a lot of this. All of our wiring and stuff, like I said, it was all kind of bundled up here, and it should just really be ran a lot better than that. So, like I said, cut 5/8 of an inch off of there. Now we have a nice tight gap, and actually the frame widens up as you come back. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it gets wider as it comes back. So when we put the transmission in, I'm probably gonna throw the transfer case on it too and get it down on the mount. When it rocks the engine back, it's actually gonna provide us a little bit more of a gap there. So got that all done. This thing's in, not too big a deal, but just had to take some time and kind of undo some wires and unloom some stuff and all that. So we'll get the transmission in and get this thing rocked back, so then we can kind of make up our mounts. The plan is just put some angle iron in here, weld it to the frame, and then bolt it to the mid plate. So let's get the mock-up 48 RE in. All right, so got our mock-up transmission fully installed. Our cross member, I threw the transfer case on, also put a ratchet strap on it to pull it down. Now the reason I did that is because the transmission's completely hollow, so I didn't want the engine kind of not in a neutral place. I wanted it where it would sit if we had the actual transmission and the transfer case and everything installed. So that's why I put the transfer case on there, get a little leverage out back here on the engine, so that way this thing's just sitting exactly where it would if everything was, you know, going back together to run. So got that all installed, and then I started looking at our mounts. We have a couple plates here for the passenger side and the driver's side. Originally I had 2-inch flat bar I was going to use, made these up, and I really didn't like the contact area because on the driver's side we're actually going to cut it down a little more so we can get in there and weld. So I got some 3-inch plate today. It is the second day of this little project. Kind of looked at it a while last night to decide what all I wanted to do, and I'll grab this passenger plate. All right, so what my plan is kind of put this passenger plate up here on the front side of our mid plate and get everything situated. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to tack it to the mid plate itself in a bunch of spots. My reason for doing that is I want to pull the mid plate to drill the holes. I want to put 3 bolts per side, 1/2-inch holes, and laying on my back here and trying to, you know, drill 6 1/2-inch holes. It would probably take forever. It'd be uncomfortable, all that kind of stuff. It's easy enough to pull the transfer case and the mock-up transmission, so that's what we are going to do. Now, once we get everything, you know, once we get everything drilled, we will cut the tacks, put everything back together, and then I can come in here and tack our plate in, or probably weld it most of the way. So that is my game plan. I'll probably take a little bit off of the adapter plate here just so we have a straight true line to the frame. And then on the driver's side here, what I would like to do is cut like another 1/4 inch or so off the plate. It does have plenty of room now, but when I hold a plate up there, I won't be able to get any weld on both sides. And what I would like to do is get a whole bunch of tacks, maybe even finish weld one side, let everything cool, and then we can pull this all off and completely weld it. Also, we're going to need some paint on everything, so just trying to do all that kind of stuff. And I'll pull the mid plate back off to do, you know, to paint it. But that's kind of my game plan, is to cut this down so we can make some room to get some weld in there. So we'll get our plates all fitted up, tacked to our Fleece mid plate, and then we will pull our mock-up transmission, our transfer case, all that stuff out, and then we can drill these holes properly and not have to worry about, you know, chips and all that kind of stuff. So that's the game plan. Let's get to it. All right, so got our mock-up transmission out, mid-plate. That is not the adapter plate for the truck. This is actually out of a manual transmission truck, a G56, but it is the same adapter plate. Our 48 one is still in there, and I'll explain why that's on there in a minute. So I got our pieces for the frame tacked up and attached to our mid-plate, just temporarily. What we're going to do is actually cut this down by about 1/4 inch. If you guys can see that line there, just to give us room to get in here and weld. At least that's my plan as of right now. But we also have to through bolt it. 3 1/2-inch bolts is what I'm thinking. And then this line over here, same thing, but we're just going to straighten it up so we have a even gap the whole way around. So why do I have an adapter plate on the mid plate and the mock-up transmission? Well, if you guys take note of this set of lines here I have drawn, we have a bit of a conundrum. So our truck ran a 6.0 at 115, I think it was, in the 8th when we were down at Emerald Coast Dragway. We ran 142 mile an hour in the 1/4 mile at Cecil, despite having some issues. So the truck is faster than what the regulations are for a factory transmission case. So if you are 6 something and quicker in the eighth, and you're over 135 mile an hour in, you know, the quarter, I can't remember the quarter mile time. Anyway, doesn't really matter. You need an SFI flex plate shield and an SFI rated flex plate to run a factory transmission case. There is no SFI cases for these 48 REs. So Loganville came out with this year, which is a very fine piece. It's an SFI flex plate shield. So this bolts, you just take the top 4 bolts out of your transmission, and then you can bolt this up and it will extend over and cover the flex plate. So if something ever happens and that flex plate shatters or the crank bolt shear, you have protection. ODSS on, I don't know, remember where it was. I think there was an article in like Diesel Army or something about it. They are going to be requiring these going forward, and the only reason they let everybody slide so far was everybody uses this transmission. Nobody came up with an SFI approved solution. Now, our problem, our mid plate, as you can see from the outline, that's where our Logan built flex plate shield comes. So got to figure out what I want to do. It's going to require some cutting, which if you look at where the flex plate shield comes here, it's right next to the case. So pretty much like this whole area and this whole area, this whole area, and down to here is, you know, just extra material that we can't get our flex plate shield on. That's why I have our other adapter plate on there, so I could just kind of mock this thing up. And let me bolt it up real quick. So as you guys can see, you can bolt it up, but obviously there is a gap to the bolt there. So I thought about making spacers, but that is honestly not the right way to go, because the point of the flex plate shield is to come over the adapter plate in case that flex plate comes apart. So it's a safety thing, it's a requirement. I'm gonna mull it over a little more, but it looks like we're gonna be cutting our mid plate and making it so it will work for our application. So if you're drag racing and you want a mid plate, and I don't know, I'm sure there's some SFI specs for sled pulling too, so you might want to look into it if you're a sled puller. But this is something I came across. It's a pretty unique problem. There's not many guys kind of, you know, running the mid plates, and the other unique part about it, actually, I don't know how many people are running mid plates. The unique part about it is Loganville just came out with this at the end of this racing season. So this is a new problem to have. This wasn't an issue previously because there was no SFI flex plate shield that you had to have on the truck. So I'm gonna kind of look at it, maybe sketch it out a little bit on the metal, but looks like our Fleece mid plate is going to get modified. But it's no fault to Fleece. This is a new problem to occur, and something that I'm sure will be taken care of going forward. Got the mid plate ready to go. Got our holes all drilled. I left it all welded up, then cut our plates off. I bolted it all up. We're good to go. I did use extra long bolts to bolt it up. The reason is the shoulder's usually a little tighter than the threaded area, so that way there's full shoulder through both plates, just to line them up a little better. I do have shorter bolts for it in the future. So what I want to do is get this in with the mock-up transmission. I'll throw the transfer case on and all that. I did put a jack stand up underneath the engine to try and keep it from trying to rock forward. But I'm gonna put transfer case and all back on just to make sure this thing's in the right spot, because don't want to weld it all up, go to, you know, put everything together when we get our transmission back, and screw it up. So we're gonna do that little extra work. It's really not that involved because, well, this thing being hollow, it's pretty easy to hoss up there. But yeah, so we'll get this thing in, we'll get it at least tacked up. Maybe we'll get it finished welded, I don't know, it's getting late. But yeah, we will get that all ready and then probably pull everything back out, because to address the issue with the plate, I was looking at it, and really the big problem areas are up top here, where it's pretty close where that Logan Built's SFI plate comes through, or would come through if we slotted this. So you really wouldn't have any metal connecting these two areas. So I kind of sketched it out a little, and you kind of have to come up here, be all funky, and maybe come around here, follow the drive shaft loop like in a circle. But I really didn't like that, so I think I do have a plan to modify this and get it all to work, and then spend some time and mill this all out. And it will take quite a bit of time, I think, because it's definitely not my forte. So anyway, we'll get it in, we'll get it tacked up, and see where we get to. Our Fleece mid plate is in. I'm very happy with how everything went. Had to put the transmission, or the mock-up transmission, in a couple of times, in and out, but not a big deal. Everything welded up and fit up great. When I initially put it in, I actually had the plates on the wrong side. I put them on this side, and I had a gap, and I'm like, how did I manage that? Oh, I put the plates on the wrong side. Now I chose to put the plates on, the forward side of the truck, thinking that whenever we have to pull the engine or whatever, we can just pull the mid plate off and then pull the engine out. If we had it the other way, the mid plate would be stuck. It would be sandwiched between the engine and the mounting plate. So this way, if we have to do something or whatever, we can pull it off. And I'm actually probably going to pull it off tonight. Like I said, we need to figure out a way to get our Logan Built SFI rated flex plate shield on there. This thing is supposed to go in here, it's supposed to cover in here, so if the flex plate ever blows up or whatever, because it's bolted right to the crank, that we have protection. Now, if you see the lines I have on the plate from Fleece, it's a little thin up top, so if we slot it, we won't really have a connecting point from, well, we'd have to get rid of this whole top, but then this whole side wouldn't really have a connecting point to the inner plate. Now, would it be okay? Probably. That was, it'd probably be all right. I was looking at cutting it here, like I had said earlier, but I have a plan. I think we're going to just add a little beef up here just to keep that all kind of one piece. Me, I'm kind of into the whole, what's the right way to put it? I lean a little more towards overkill than underkill, so we have plenty of room. So I think if we just weld a plate up here and make it match and just kind of follow the curve and just add, I don't know, even a 1/2 or 3/4 of an inch of material, and really it only needs to be in these spots. Like if we came right off the top here out and then met our angle down here, that would probably work. So that's what I'm thinking. And we'll slot this so we can slide this in, and then we'll have the sturdiness of the mid plate, and we will have the safety and the legality for racing of the SFI flex plate shield from Logan Built. So mid plate's in, very happy with the results. And when I took the trans out and all, nothing moved. Our dowel pins are doing exactly what they're supposed to. So very happy with all that. All right, so our fleece mid plate is installed. Very happy with how everything went. One thing I forgot to cover underneath there, we're gonna definitely have to look at our routing for our power cables and our fuel lines. We don't want any of that rubbing on the mid plate. That's the only problem with it really, is that issue. That was really our only big hurdle as far as getting it installed. Yes, we had to take the transmission in and out and all that kind of crap, but to make sure things were right, it was well worth it. Like I said earlier in the video, the point of the mid plate is to just make the engine more stable, trying to keep it from torquing. The Armor Inc. solid engine mounts we have, they're like really technically like a semi-solid. They have like a polyurethane bushing or whatever in it. And also the engine mounts on the frame of the truck, if you look at them, they're just kind of like a U in the frame. You know, they come out and there's like a U there and the bolt goes in. So really that engine, if you had enough torque to it, it could lift out. And actually Armor Inc. of all people had that happen to them at one of the UCC events when they're drag racing. But it'll make that a non-issue. The engine's there. It's, you know, going to put more power to the ground, because anything you get movement-wise engine, I know it might be minuscule, that's all power that's not going through the drivetrain. So it's just going to make things a lot more stable, a lot more rigid, and be better off for our application, especially with us wanting to sled pull the truck and do all that kind of stuff. So very happy with the install. We got a couple modifications to make, but it's not a big deal. And definitely going to make pulling the transmission a little bit easier, because, you know, that engine's just going to stay where it's at. So once our transmission jack's set, we're good to go. No kind of fiddling with it, trying to get everything all lined up. So anyway, guys, put down in the comments what you think about the mid plate install. Yeah, we got to start on the drag truck, really getting to some of the odds and ends. Now that we have our mid plate in, I don't know that we need a front cross member for the truck like the one we cut out underneath the engine when we did our rack and pinion. But that being said, I think I'm still going to put one in. We need to get a piece of chromoly for that, just to be extra secure. Like I said, I tend to lean towards overkill a little more than anything. A little bit of weight, yes, but for the peace of mind, I can deal with it. We can cut some weight elsewhere. But we also have to figure out a track bar and stuff like that. So we got some more modifications that I'm thinking about for the truck, but I think before we do all that, we should get done what we kind of have in the works, so we don't get caught with our pants down once it gets warm, once it gets nice out, as it is just about February. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed. Please like the video, subscribe down below. Catch you guys on the next one. Get out in your garage, get the wrench on your truck.